Hello everyone and welcome back to Empire Pro, or if you're new here, thank you for clicking on this video. Today I want to discuss one of British wrestling's pioneers, the legendary Johnny Saint. A Manchester native trained by another legend of British catch-can wrestling style, Billy Robinson, without doubt the most famous catch pro wrestler in British history. Saint would wrestle for joint promotions, All-Star Wrestling and World of Sport during the boom period of British wrestling during the mid-50s to late 80s. As the story goes, it was Saint's mother who one day went to get a haircut at a local salon, only to have the hairdresser be none other than the mother of Billy Robinson. They became friends and introduced their sons to each other, with Saint soon beginning to train at Robinson's father's gym. He trained as a wrestler under Billy Robinson, Colin McDonald and George Kidd. Johnny Saint was renowned for his intricate holds, counters and innovative use of wrist locks, roller pins and bridges. His matches were known for their skilled exchanges and tactical maneuvers, making him a master tactician in the ring. In today's video I want to discuss the career and life of Johnny Saint, his background, style, and what it was that made so many wrestling fans fall in love with his way of grappling in the squared circle, as well as the influence his and Billy Robinson's style of wrestling has in today's pro wrestling landscape. So, without further ado, let's take a look at Johnny Saint. Catch him if you can. Born John Miller on June 29, 1941, Johnny Saint was renowned for his technical wrestling ability. He gained prominence in British wrestling scene during the mid to late 20th century, particularly through his appearances on World of Sport after making his debut as a professional wrestler in June of 1958, being defeated by one of his trainers, Colin McDonald. World of Sport was a British television sport programme which ran on ITV between the 2nd of January 1965 and ending on the 28th of September 1985, which focused on three main segments: On the Ball, a preview of the day's football action, the ITV7, a horse racing showcase, and of course, professional wrestling, with commentator Kent Walton, alongside a results section to close the programme. Two of the biggest stars to come out of the World of Sport era of British wrestling at the time were Giant Haystacks and Big Daddy, two imposing giants who could barely go to local shops without getting recognised. Wrestling in the UK was in a real boom period, the likes of which arguably haven't really been seen ever since. But whilst Haystacks and Big Daddy were the imposing giants, another style of wrestling was growing increasingly popular in the UK: British catch-can. In a landscape where Western audiences mostly preferred larger-than-life characters, the likes of Johnny Saint finally tuned the art of British catch-can wrestling, focusing on the art of joint manipulation and inflicting torturous-like maneuvers on their opponents. British catch-can was known as a historical British style of wrestling that originated in Lancashire, England. It's also known as Lancashire catcher's catch-can. The style was a major influence on the development of other wrestling styles and combat sports, including the likes of pro wrestling, MMA, and freestyle wrestling. A perfect modern example of this would be New Japan star and fellow Brit, Zack Sabre Jr., who utilises the catch-can style, switching holds and submissions every 4 to 5 seconds, with the Billy Robinson and Johnny Saint philosophy being that if you couldn't win the match within a particular time, it was time to switch and keep your opponent guessing, and constantly force them to work out how to reverse the next hold, in which time the aggressor, in this case Zack Sabre Jr., would have already switched the hold to something else to inflict more pain and cause confusion to his opponents. Sabre Jr. often cited Bret Hart, Koji Kanemoto, Johnny Kidd, Shinjiro Watani, Jushin Liger, and of course Johnny Saint as inspirations for his wrestling style. Anyway, back to the man in question, Johnny Saint. The man billed from Blackpool, England, closely tied to where British catch-can had originated, Saint's slender build and physique somewhat pigeonholed him in the world of pro wrestling. As I mentioned earlier, Guys like Giant Haystacks and Big Daddy were huge men of big builds, almost otherworldly. But when they didn't really have the ability to do the work on the mat, that's where the likes of Billy Robinson and Johnny Saint really took over, known for their agility and incredible mat wrestling skills. Over the course of his career, Saint held the World Lightweight Championship a record 10 times between 1976 and 1993, along with multiple reigns as British and European lightweight champion with British promotion All Star Wrestling, who still run shows to this day. He also competed internationally, including later appearances in the United States and Japan respectively, showcasing his British catch-can style on a global stage. Saint's nickname, the Man of 1,000 Holds, came from his largely submission-based grappling style, frequently using wrist locks, roll-up pins and bridges to counter his opponent's offense. He would also utilize the Lady of the Lake hold as his finishing move. The move was used to trick an unsuspecting opponent. The wrestler would sit down, cross their legs, tuck their head into their chest and wrap one arm around their ankle, so they were effectively rolled into a ball. The wrestler then extends their remaining arm between their leg and their waist. The opponent, ostensibly confused, normally takes the offered hand, at which point the wrestler rolls forward and into an arm lock. This was used by Johnny Saint and was often referred to as the Johnny Saint Special. On October 10th, 1996, Saint would travel to the land of the rising sun, where he defeated Naroi Hoshikawa at Michinoku Pro Wrestling's event in what was billed as Saint's retirement match. But in true pro wrestling style, he continued to wrestle the occasional match and did not vacate the World Lightweight Championship until 2001. It had remained vacant since that point, to be fair. But hey, when is a retirement really a retirement in pro wrestling, am I right? Nevertheless, on the 27th of November 2007, more than a decade after his retirement, Saint returned to the ring for LDN Wrestling in the UK to defeat Johnny Kidd, another British wrestling icon. He wrestled a further 8 matches for LDN, including 2 bouts against 3-time LDN British Heavyweight Champion Gentleman John Ritchie, in which Saint put up a considerable fight before being ultimately defeated. Saint would make his true American debut at Shikara's King of Trios tournament on the 27th of March 2009, with Quackenbush and George Skyhead Rivera in the Masters of 1,000 Holds team. They would win their opening round match against Incoherence, the trio of Delirious, Hallow Wicked and Frightmare, but lost their quarterfinal round match against Team Uppercut, the trio of Brian Danielson, Claudio Castagnoli and Dave Taylor. Saint would return to Shikara on July 30th, 2011, losing to Johnny Kidd in a match contested under World of Sport rules. The following day, Saint teamed with Quackenbush to defeat the team of Kidd and Colt Cabana, with Saint pinning Kidd. Johnny Saint would also have a brief stint in Italy in 2015, where he would, until today at least, officially retire at the grand old age of 73. And having seen clips of some of his matches from only a few years prior, he'd honestly hardly lost a step, having incredible stamina for someone in their early 70s. Following his in-ring retirement, Saint worked as a trainer and served as the on-screen general manager of WWE's now-defunct NXT UK brand from 2018 until its eventual closure in 2022. Johnny Saint joined NXT UK as the general manager on June 7th of 2018. He was appointed to the role before tapings for the show began in Cambridge the following month of July. Having Saint as the inaugural general manager was a great touch by WWE, allowing them to pay homage and respect to one of British wrestling's pioneers and innovators. NXT UK would later introduce the Heritage Cup on September 10th, 2020, with matches being contested under 2 out of 3 falls rules, with 6 3-minute rounds and a 20-second interval between each round, more commonly referred to as British Rounds rules. This was yet another nod to classic British wrestling heritage, showcasing catch-as-catch-can style wrestling to a modern audience. Despite NXT UK's closure in 2022, The Heritage Cup remains an integral part of NXT programming to the present day. As of lately, Saint has been keeping a more low profile, winding down from an incredible career, and understandably so, in the Welsh seaside town of Rhyl. It was then announced in 2024 that Saint was to be inducted in the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame, showing that Johnny Saint's contribution to pro wrestling, specifically British wrestling, is still being recognised to this day, and will be immortalised in the wrestling history books forever. Thank you for watching this video. If you've enjoyed, please like and subscribe, and be sure to hit the bell for post notifications. I have more video essays in the pipeline, so be sure to look out for those coming soon too. And by the time you're watching this video, that will mean that the 2 strikes on the channel have been lifted, so that's certainly a weight off my shoulders going forward. As for me, I'll see you guys in the next one. Empire, out.